Hey Floss Tube, it's Carol, Saltbox Stitcher. I'm back for episode number 3. It's been a while again, sorry. Just stuff's been happening. I guess I lied on my first video because I said, I have all this time to stitch, and then this month just a lot of crazy stuff happened. Been doing a lot of quilting. I think at one time I had 18 quilts waiting to be done, so I only get 3 or 4 done a week, so that really kind of cut into my free time. And unfortunately I had to unquilt one of them. Just wasn't happy with how it was turning out, and I was about halfway finished, and I said, I don't like this. And so I sat and took out all the quilting stitch by stitch. It took me like 3 or 4 days. I feel like I lost 3 or 4 days of my life. Have been doing stitching. I stitch at night, so I don't usually give that up. So, been sweating. Rains every day in Florida. And it's hot, hot, hot. So I've been sweating, but I prefer to call it glistening. But that's Florida. And today's August 1st, so we got many more days of it left. So I'll just stay inside. Like Carolyn from Mesa, Stash Sister, and she said you just stay inside because it's too hot to go outside. So I'm kind of with you on that one. So I named this one Legacy and thought I'd talk a little, well, I really want to show you mostly samplers, but thought I'd talk a little bit about just how to leave a legacy. And I think one of the ways we leave a legacy is through our name. And, names are kind of associated with people sometimes. And, nowadays a lot of people are naming their kids last names like Morgan and Madison. And biblical names are very popular. My sister, when she had her firstborn, we were trying to think of a name. And she said, well, I want it to be a Bible name. And I said, well, how about Abraham? And she said, no, I don't want my child being called A.B. the baby. So she named him Benjamin, her firstborn. And all that I could think of was there was an old man at our church that was just kind of odd and creepy. His name was Benjamin. So I was just sure my sister's firstborn was going to turn out like this creepy old man. But he didn't. He's a wonderful guy and I love him. So anyway. But certain names just have connotations. Like Jezebel. You don't see many Jezebels running around. Lizzie Borden. Everybody knows that poem. My dad actually, for years, we called him a junior. He was known as a junior. And yet... his dad's birth certificate had a completely different name than his. So he technically was not a junior. So anyway, ever hear anybody say, my name is Mud or your name is Mud? And that comes from Dr. Samuel Mudd, fun fact, who treated John Wilkes Booth after he shot Lincoln. He had a broken leg, and so he was not thought to be a good guy because he treated somebody who had assassinated the president. So when you hear your name is Mudd, it's actually M-U-D-D. That's what it's from. I think my mother had really serious doubts whether I was going to be normal at all, because when I was small, preschool age, people would ask me my name and I said Susan. Not my name. And she would correct me, and she'd say, no, your name is Carol. And I'd say, no, my name is Susan. And I would fight with her that my name was Susan. Come to find out, when she was pregnant with me, they had talked about naming me Susan. So be careful what you talk about. So anyway, I wanted to talk, like I said, a little bit about names. And I think with samplers, so many times, that's what catches me. I'll see a sampler and I remember, okay, this girl is going to be known for her stitching because that's what's on her sampler. So I think that's important. And we'll go through some of those things. But first, I think a couple people have shown some vintage Noah's Ark things. I know Primitive Stitcher had a cross-stitch Afghan or coverlet or something like that, and she had cross-stitched it, and it was Noah's Ark. And Joan and Kelly Show had shown something that she had done vintage that was Noah's Ark. So I thought I'd show you a couple quilts that I did that were Noah's Ark. And the first one was my daughter's baby quilt. She was born in 1986, so this is prime 80s. So I took prairie schooler animals and I charted them and increased them where I could. Let's see if I'm right side up here. Just like everything, there's threads on it. So it's those classic 80s colors. And in the center is the ark. Oops, I don't know if you can see that. In the center is the ark. And then it has various animals. And this is done in Ada. And then I hand quilted it. So, and I put a ruffle of just embroidered lace around the edge. It's quilted with hearts. And so anyway, that was kind of my own creation thing. And her room was done in those pink, country blue, and seafoam green. Those were classic 80s colors. So, and then next I'm going to insert a couple of pictures from a quilt that I made. It was actually a store sample. We did a block of the month at the quilt shop that I worked at, and the quilt shop closed in 2010, so I probably made this about 10 years ago. And it's actually by, it was a block of the month by Country Threads, and they have since closed. They were in Iowa, and it's, I don't remember if it's called All Creatures or whether it's called Noah's Ark, but I'm going to insert a picture of that. Okay, so that was all hand appliqued in the primitive colors, and I still love it. I just wish I had a wall that was, you know, big enough. I mean, I could hang it here, but it's already taken. So, okay, so I'm going to start showing you some of the samplers. These aren't all my samplers, but they are some of my samplers, and I have a lot more that aren't framed, and I just really wish I could get them all framed, so I'm kind of trying to gradually do that. So the first one is a Blackbird, and this one is called Hannah Lavina, and it's actually from this book, Honeysuckle Manor. I don't know if this is still available. You can see it on the back. So the name on the actual sampler is Hannah Lavina. And my mother's grandmother's name was Anna Livonia, which is so close, it's just kind of ironic. And I don't know if my mother didn't like her grandmother or if she just didn't like the name. But my mother's middle name is Livonia, after her grandmother. And I'm not kidding. She hated that name. You would ask her middle name and she wouldn't even tell you. And she just really didn't like the name Livonia. I think it's kind of pretty, actually. So anyway, the original is Hannah Lavina. And I don't generally change the name, but since it was so close, I thought it would be fun to change it. And I put 1860. That's the closest date that I think she was born. So anyway, that hangs on the wall. That's kind of fun. The next one actually doesn't have a name, but this is another Blackbird, and it's called Sampler House. I don't know if you can see that. It's monochromatic, and that's a Blackbird. And this is probably one of the few that I actually have a, ooh, the glare, that I have glass on. It was a shop model at the quilt shop that I worked at. We also carried cross stitch. And so they framed it. And I guess I forgot to tell them I don't usually use glass, but anyway, it has glass. So that was kind of fun. Like I said, it's monochromatic, and it's actually kind of a reddish brown. Well, let me see what it calls for. Molasses, a Weeks Dye Works thread called Molasses. So that one, let's see what I have next. Oh, the next one that I want to show you, and some of these are, really vintage, and some are not as vintage. This one I did in 1993, and this is another Words of Praise. I talked about Words of Praise in my very first video. I think this is called the Salvation Sampler. And there again, this was done by blending. You used DMC and you blended colors together. It came in a kit originally, and so it was pretty easy to figure out what color's what. I love this one. And true to form, I made a mistake. Right here in my 9, I'm missing a stitch in the 9. So I've heard that the Amish purposely put a mistake in their quilts because they feel like only God is perfect. I don't have to do it on purpose. It happens. The next one. Okay, sorry for the pause. I'm sitting here recording, just, innocently doing my thing, and all of a sudden this little thing pops up, and some message from the community. I'm ashamed. It's bizarre. And it's something about the hard drive, and it was full or something, and so I couldn't record anymore. And, my husband does all this stuff, and he wasn't around. He had gone for a little while. So I thought, well, okay, I'll wait till he comes up. But when those little messages pop up, I never know what to do. It could say, the world's going to end in 30 minutes. Click OK. Does that mean, okay, I've read this, or I'm okay with the world ending? I don't know. But either way, I'm always afraid to click those. So anyway, he got me all straightened out again. So sometimes I think it's like innocence is bliss, or ignorance, whatever. I just do all that I need to do on my iPad. I pay bills. I buy cross stitch. I manage photos. I buy cross stitch. I read emails. I buy cross stitch. So, what else do you need? So, anyway, I think I was about to show you the next vintage piece. So, let me get the pattern. Hold on. So, this is the next one that I wanted to show you, and this is Hannah Cummins, 1828. Sometimes I forget to say the date, and I guess that's not really fair to the girl. But I just think it's amazing that these girls, I guess there are a few done by boys, but primarily girls, would have done these not having any idea that hundreds of years later, somebody's going to be stitching an exact replica of theirs, or nearly exact replica, and remembering their name. That whole thing with names, that's just kind of amazing to me. So anyway, it's by With My Needle. So there's With Thy Needle and Thread, which is Brenda Gervais, and there's With My Needle, which is Ellen Chester. And you can follow Ellen. She's on Instagram as Needleworker Ellen, and she's prolific. She teaches. She does a lot of, and she has some wonderful patterns. Some really nice Quaker ones. And anyway, With My Needle, Hannah Cummins, 1828. And one of the things I like about this particular sampler, you can tell when she wrote her name, she didn't she didn't have enough space to put it in the box to put the S on her name. And the same up here where she says, own. My thoughts before they are my own, O-W-N. So she just added that N at the top. So it's kind of, my husband always says, what, did you forget to plan ahead? So anyway, love the colors. And one of the things I really like about this piece, and I like about a lot of samplers, is just the way some of the threads just really kind of disappear. Sometimes when you're stitching it, it's a little scary because you're like, well, is this even going to show up? And you can see there's a border up here. There we go, right here and right here. And they hardly do show up. Same with the outside border all the way around. But I'm kind of okay with that. I mean, I like it. So anyway, that's Hannah Cummins by With My Needle, Ellen Chester. And then the next one I'm going to show you is absolutely, without a doubt, one of my very, very favorites. This is Elizabeth Pratt. It's all done in silks, NPI silks, and it only has the two colors, the red. And it's basically a navy. It has some four-sided stitch. It's got this is, I think this is four-sided stitch. It's got a lot of over one. It's got a whole alphabet here in over one. And I love this piece. This was originally a class I took from Ann and Pat in Liberty, at that Liberty gathering that I had talked about on one of my other videos. And I think it's still available. I just talked, if you call Dying to Stitch, Dying, D-Y-I-N-G, Dying to Stitch, and they are the R&R gals too. But if you call their shop Dying to Stitch, I think they still have it. There's a lot of over one on the verse right here. So I really like this. It took me a while to do. And but it's one of my very favorites. It's got a lot of red on it, so that makes it even more favorite. And that one, you know, the pattern is just the chart basically, but it does have a picture on it. And they're real good about telling you exactly, you know, what the stitch is going to be. So, and that's Elizabeth Pratt. Yeah, I love her. And then the last one I'm going to show you today, this is Needlework Press. And she has some wonderful patterns. And she's actually, Needlework Press is, I think it's pronounced Vicky Low Piccolo Jennett. And she's also the one that puts out that calendar. I know I've had a lot of people ask about where I journal every day, what I'm stitching and my finishes for the month. And that's the Needleworker's Journal. But here's the pattern. And I had it for a while. It got a little worse for the wear. And this is also done. No, this was done in a Verissois. Yeah, this was done in a Verissois. This one's heavy. You see it? I absolutely love this. This is one of my very favorites. My friend Ruth, when she comes over, she says, oh, that's my very favorite. I mean, who doesn't love a red cow with spots on it, you know? I mean, really. It's just wonderful. Love the Rooster. I guess it's a rooster. Love the man, lady, whoever's feeding the sheep. And this is Jane Tyndall. And I had this in my stash for a while. And it's one of those things you just think, oh, I want to stitch that at some point. And it got to a certain point where it was like, I had seen it a few times finished by somebody else. I just have to start it, you know, because it's calling my name. So I think that's all I'm going to show you. That's vintage samplers. I do have others, but you know, I don't want to show you all at once, you know. Anyway, so here's a couple smalls I'll show you. This is, and I didn't get the patterns out, this is Peace Rose by Blackbird Designs. And this is one of their, it's one of the small patterns. I think they're all called Reward of Merit, but I'm not sure. But this was fun, and it's beautiful colors. It's gorgeous. And I put the, just some quilting cotton on the back and the chenille that I glued. I'm bad. I'm bad. I can't help it. I'm just bad. Anybody that tells somebody their name is something else when they're a kid, it's like wacko. This one is one that I did. This is actually a free Blackbird pattern. It's filled with walnut shells, so it's kind of wobbly. I put my mom's, her name was Marjorie Thompson. That was her maiden name. So I put Marjorie Thompson. And then I just added B for her last name after she married my dad. But yeah, this is a free Blackbird download. And I had the perfect color for the back. And I think it's only done with like 2 colors, maybe 3. It goes very fast. It was very fun. It just makes a nice little, and keep to sit around. Okay, then I want to show you one other small. Let me get up to get this. This I actually finished after I did my last video. I posted on Instagram. But this was one of my pitiful starts that I had on the 4th of July. And so I went ahead and finished that. He's adorable. I just love that little guy. I mean, I just love him. And I put some, there again, quilting cotton on the back. And I just put rickrack all around. And then I tied a little rickrack bow and I painted a little star. I'm not super crafty. I used to do craft shows and I made wooden dolls and they were very primitive and I probably sold 500 or 600 of them over the years, and I just kind of got burned out on painting and, you know, doing all that stuff. So I really kind of narrowed what I do now. So I like to do finishes, but I don't do too much like painting and all that kind of stuff anymore. Okay, then I had 2 other things I finished since I last did a video. These are both by Lottie Da. This one is called With Your Might. And it says, all that you do, do with your might. Things done in halves are never done right. And it has little kind of quilted baskets. Quilted, they're not quilted, but they are like a quilting block pattern. And then the companion is this one called Gentle Words, and it says, what the dew is to the flower, gentle words are to the soul. I think this is why craft stitchers are so nice. I mean, you know, when you stitch that kind of thing, or you stitch Be Kind and it takes you a week and you're stitching Be Kind, it's like writing something 100 times on the blackboard. It's gonna sink in. So anyway, this was the first one and I finished it. And they're very small, but I'm gonna have them, I'm gonna get them framed. I just think they'd be adorable next to each other, you know, framed in like very similar frame next to each other. And this one has like an Irish chain pattern. And they were done with NPI silks too. Not sure what linen I used. I think it's a Weeks. I'm not sure. I'd had them kitted. No, it wasn't. It was a Meadowlark. Meadowlark by Birds of a Feather, and I don't think you can get that anymore. I think it's done. And the other one I finished, I was at my friend. I am so easily influenced. It's really bad. Because I was at my friend's house and she got this pattern out and she's like, now I know you have this. And I said, yes, I do. She said, let's stitch it. It's pretty fun. So I said, okay. So I got mine out and she came over like a couple days later. It's Winter is Past by Blackbird. This came out about the same time as their the series they're doing now with the birds. This was one of the releases at about the same time. And so I did it. And this is done on, let me see, I can't remember if it's ale or, it's a Picture This Plus. Oaken. It's Oaken. And I did 36 count Oaken, so I used one strand. And the way, you know, a lot of these are kind of splotchy, and there's a big splotch right here in the middle. Oops, where the basket is. But I like it. I do. I like it. But the colors are really nice, and they're very similar to the bird ones that they have out now. So. And it does have a few, it's got some eyelets and some Smyrna crosses. Have you ever listened to or watched, she's in the UK and I think her name is April May June Stitcher. And she says, not specialty, but speciality. I think that sounds beautiful. I think when we talk about stitches now, should all say it has speciality stitches. Because it does. It just sounds more British, I guess, English. And then this was another one that I started during Mania. And this one is Plum Street. Esther Sire, 1796. Oops, can you see it? Sorry for the glare on the plastic. Last time I took everything out of the plastics, and then it's like a guessing game, putting all the patterns back in their plastic. So, anyway, this has quite a bit of over one. Not quite a bit, but a little bit. It's the verse and then her name. And the over one in the black really sets it off. So I've barely started the over one. And I really thought that's all I had left to do because I'm really ready for her to go home. She has overstayed her welcome. And she's just become kind of an obnoxious guest. This is why we need to know their names. So anyway, it's Esther Sire. And I thought all I had to do was the over one. And then I realized I never finished this alphabet up here, which is eyelet stitches. And this whole band. Let me see if I can get it. This curvy thing. This curvy band. That is all eyelet stitches. And this part is eyelet stitches. And then you have some, anyway, of these. My mind escapes me. Anyway, so I need to finish that second part of the alphabet and then the over ones. And then she needs to go home. She's just becoming a little obnoxious. I did a little bit on this one. So I guess now I'm showing you my whips. I didn't preface that, but these are my whips. I went from finishes right into whips without even, no stutter. This is Eliza Mitchell, by La Di Da. And I started the String Mania, and I think I showed you this before, but I did a little bit of work on this. Just a little bit. On this band right here. And this is 40 count Confederate gray. So I love that. These are the colors for it. And I'm doing it in the silks too. The NPI. It's got a little tiny bit of red and some tans and a lot of greens. So it'll be really pretty. Another whip. I actually have like 20 some whips. I'm just amazed. I'm getting a little neurotic here. It's kind of scary. This is Quaker Garden. A lot of people have done this, and it's beautiful. Blackbird designs. And I have a pretty good start on this. Not a lot, but a pretty good start. And I think I'm using a higher count. I think it called for 32 or 30, and I'm doing like 36, so I'm using one strand. And these are the colors for it. Everybody's so good at doing their little floss tosses. I'm not so good at that. But it's got the pinks, the blues, and it's very pretty. And then the other whip I have, not the other, I have many. One of the other ones that I did a little tiny bit on is this Pink House Sampler by Plum Street. And I need to get back to this because I've seen a lot of people have it finished, and I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Another one that I don't think I have shown you before. My whole dining room table is just like full of projects. It's a disease. Y'all know that, right? It's a disease. Pretty soon it'll be in the psychiatry books. It's a disease. This one, which I don't have a lot done, but I have the border all done, and then I have a couple of the bands and start on the house. This is by Scarlet House, and this is called Ellen Strick. Can you see that? 1849. It's another one that has quite a bit of over one. And this is 46 count. So chances are I'm going to do a tent stitch, which is, you know, half a stitch on the over one. Because my eyes are still pretty good. I do wear readers, but they're not quite that good to do a full cross on 46 count. This one I don't think I showed you. And this is where I can be easily influenced because Nicole of Nicole's Needlework, she's done some beautiful samplers, and she has done this. She had it framed. It's Isabella Fox, 1827 by GGR. Oh, I love this. I have quite a bit done on this. So I have to tell you, this is one of those kind of things where, you know, the thread color just seemed like, oh my, it's not showing up at all. So I started doing, I don't know which is Adam and which is Eve. Do you know Adam didn't have a belly button? You know that, don't you? Think about it. Anyway, I started doing it in this color, which is what's kind of called for. It's kind of that washed out gold. And I thought, oh, I don't know if he's going to show up. So I thought, well, maybe we want him a little naked pink. But I don't like the pink. I'm going to go back to this. I think the pink is just doesn't, I mean, there is some pink in this, but I just don't think I want the pink. But the border on this is fabulous. Just fabulous. So I definitely need to get back to that. And this has a whole bunch of different, this has Gloriana, Dinky Dyes, some needlepoint silk. It's got the full range of colors. And I know it's going to be gorgeous. And I think, people say don't quote me. Well, who am I going to quote you to? Anyway, I think this is, it's either Sand Dune or Pecan. I think it's Sand Dune by Lakeside Linens. So, love the big tree. Got to finish that. And then, oh, I failed to tell you, the 46 count one, Ellen Strick, I'm doing in Tudor silks. So they're very fine and they're beautiful, but that'll be fun. The next one is this Blackbird 1861 antique sampler. And I kind of wish I had done it on a different fabric than what was called for. It calls for mellow, which is, it's a Picture This Plus, and it's a little bit yellowy. And I wish I had done it something a little more tannish. But I got a little bit done on that. But I love the colors. I'm not an orange or pink person, really, but it's beautiful in that. So then, I've told you many times, Kitten Stitcher is my BFF, happily. And I have to tell you that Brenda, and I don't know how to pronounce her last name, Zvecki, maybe? And she's on Instagram as Brenda Sampler Stitcher. And she recently did a little video walkthrough of her samplers. It was just all downhill from there. Because I had this pattern kitted up. And when I saw this one on her wall, I thought, well, that's all there is to it. I have to. I have to start this. It was right by my chair, kitted up. It's Rachel Howell by Scarlet House. Red House, look at those birds. Are they not fabulous? And then you got an Adam and Eve. They're just fabulous. So, literally, 2 days ago, I got it out and I started on it. So I have a little bit of a start on that. And this is done on 40 count Legacy by Picture This Plus with the called for needlepoint silks. So, I mean, look at that red. Oh, that's close to being a to die for red. It's needlepoint silk 502. Anyway, so I'm kind of obsessed with that one since I just started it. And I have so many others that I need to go back and, go through. Okay, I'm going to show you just a few more things, and then I'm going to leave you. And these are things, I don't really do stash. No, I don't really do, now I can't remember what it's called. Happy Mail? No, that's when somebody gifts you something. What is it called? Anyway, new projects is what I call it. So these are a couple, and I hope you can see them. This is Susanna Pratt. Oops. Okay, I'm going to get this yet. Pineberry Lane. And I think that's gorgeous. And this is done in Gentle Art. So I have the thread pack for that. There's the antique. And I call these samplers, some of them are called reproductions, some are just samplers. I know there's probably specific criteria for, I know Pat Ryan had talked about it had to be within an inch of the museum piece. And so, I don't claim to be any kind of an expert. I stitch what I like. And what you've seen me stitch is what I like. So, at my age, it's like, why stitch pink elephants? I don't like pink elephants. I mean, they're fine. If one walked by the house, I would be nice to it, but I'm not going to stitch them. This is Ragamuffin 2 by Kitten Stitcher, aka Shakespeare's Peddler. And this was on one of her videos, she talked about this one, so I promptly had to order it. But the actual antique did not have any, the thread they used literally had disappeared. And so she basically composed a new alphabet to put in there and did a wonderful job. And if you've watched one of her latest videos where she shows her stitching room, I would never leave. I wouldn't. put a stitch in. I do have 2 sewing rooms, but my long arm room is kind of a work room. You know, there's rolls of batting. It's not. People want tours of my stitching areas, and I literally sit in a lazy boy recliner in the living room. And I have a couple baskets around with all my stitching stuff. But as far as a room where I stitch, I don't. You know, because, you know, hubby wants me to sit out here with him. Go ahead, say it. Oh, how sweet. Told you he falls asleep. Anyway, and so I have that one kitted. Actually, there's another pattern in there too. Maybe need to find out what it is. Oh yeah, Elizabeth Milner by Shakespeare's Peddler. And these were a couple that were on her wall in her room, and they just, oh, gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And then talking about Kitten Stitcher, if you haven't been to her website, and she's dyeing linen now, and the colors are fabulous. They're very, to me, it's kind of like linen you would do at home, but it's a little bit more professionally dyed because she uses some commercial products. And I love the names. They're just the cutest names. But I ordered a couple pieces of linen from her and love this one, Golden Child. Anyway, check those out because she has some really nice linens. This is another one I want to do. This is this one I will take out of the bag because it's kind of hard to see. This is Kathy Barrick, and it's called Ann Smith. And, you know, when I originally saw this done, it was done a really light linen. And I thought, oh, well, that must be a variation. But no, I think this is just the aging of the sampler because it calls for a lighter linen. It's called Linen by Weeks Dye Works. And it's like this color. So totally different. So I'm gonna play with it a little bit. I may want to do it on something darker so it looks more like the picture. I don't know. But I love the motifs. Love them. Little house here. All those big flowers. I love things on samplers that are totally out of proportion. You know, a cat that's the size of a house, or you know, it kind of vacillates between being primitive and folk art and samplery. This is another one that was Blackbird, and this is Maria Selby Humphrey, right there. And a lot of people I've seen recently have put these drums out. This is a nice book. It's got a lot of good stuff in it. But I for a long time have wanted to do that sampler. It's beautiful. And I have it kitted with some, let's see if I can do this. It just has beautiful colors. But the linen that I have kitted, I kitted it a while ago. And it calls for 30 count. So I was like, oh, okay, get 30 count. Which I really am not opposed to doing the 30 count because it'll make it really nice and big. And I like big samplers. But I'll have to use 2 strands, which sometimes that's okay, especially on 30 count because, you know, it doesn't look too thick on 30 count. I'm still going. Scarlet House, and I have quite a few of hers kitted. I just picked this one, Mary Betchel. Love those big trees. Love them. And the colors on this are another, these are Belsoise. I like to use silks on my, I know they're pricey, but once you start using silks on samplers, and you can get a little bit of a collection going. And then I just go through every time, you know, whatever I have left of something else, I add it to the stash, and then, but aren't those pretty? That could almost be like Christmas colors. It's very pretty. So that's on the list. And then this is the last one I'm going to show you. This is called Above the Sky, Mary Ann Raywood, 1818. This is another one. It's just beautiful. This is the actual antique. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. So, I think that's all I have. No, there was something else. Oh, I know. I have really appreciated I still am just kind of amazed. Subscribing and, watching my channel, and I just am overwhelmed, and I still am overwhelmed. But I do feel like a giveaway is probably being called for because, y'all have been so kind. I've had literally 1,000 comments, I think. 800, I don't know. And all very kind, very kind. So I'm going to do a giveaway. And one of the things I want you to post, and I know there's rules. You have to be 18. Don't say giveaway. Don't say freebie. Just, I want you to post whether you like your name or not. And I do like my name. I like the name Carol. I mean, every Christmas, people talk about singing about Carol, Christmas carols, which, by the way, Carol means song of joy. So I like my name, but for some reason as a child, I thought it should be Susan, which is totally wacky. But anyway, the other thing, too, that I wanted to say about legacy is that I think we all will appreciate things that have been left by former generations, samplers that we can stitch and all that. But also going forward, I think it's important that we have somebody in our lives, whether it's a friend, a colleague, a student, or a relative, or in my case, a grandchild, that you really want to pass on the gift of stitching. And I think it's important because many of us learned, by our grandmothers, our mothers, sisters. Somebody taught us to stitch. And so I think it's important that we also pass it on to the next generation. And that can be your legacy. So just think of that. And I hopefully will be back sometime sooner than later. And just want to say, love ya. Bye.
What are you?
A stitcher.
Oh, show her your stitching. Hold it up. Ooh, hold it up so she can see you. And what are you? What are you?
A stitcher.